Cool. Hi. Yeah, before we begin, can I just have a quick hand up? Who here is a full-time blogger? Cool. So you're in the right space. Who here is like started their blog and they're just wondering how they can get that blog to make money for them? Yeah, cool. Who here hasn't started a blog, but like they're thinking, I really want to start a blog, but I don't know where to start? Sort of. Ish. Okay, cool. So it's very much early stage blogging, kind of creative ideas, which is really cool. It's a great place. So I'm that bearded guy, double bearded guy, and I was just saying. So I've got some of my team, Steph and Ben here, helping out the unconventionalists. I was saying to Ben, and Ben was noticing we're the only two guys here with Yaron. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that means about bloggers, or if it's. Oh, sorry, I didn't see there. I didn't see behind the news. Sorry. There's three of us. You were too busy texting. That's why I couldn't see you. So just a little bit about me, I guess. So I work with a bunch of different kind of organizations, mostly in the sort of the adult learning environment. So whether that's through traditional business schools such as INSEAD or the Side Business School, or through organizations such as General Assembly, Escape the City, Dent, etc. And what I really love also is working with startups. So I get very excited about early stage entrepreneurs who try and craft their stories and try and understand how can I explain what I do in a way that people actually get it and not get like a blank face. Speaking of blank faces, anyone here a life coach as well? Anybody here coaching? Yeah, cool. Coach, yeah? What kind of coaching do you do?
Business, a bit of health.
Yeah, business health?
I work with young people, behavioural coaching.
Cool, nice. And was another hand?
I'm just starting, I'm getting into it, training to be a coach.
Just starting. Cool. Yeah. So I work quite a lot with coaches, especially like no one really knows what coaching is or understands what it is. So I think, yeah. Cool. So just a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on me, but just a really quick background. I started off my career in the corporate media sales business. So anybody who's ever picked up a newspaper and you've opened up and you saw like this magnificent portrait of like a West African country, like a beacon of hope for democracy, and there's like these features on these ministers and how amazing they are, and you're like thinking, what the hell is this? This sounds a little bit dodgy. Well, that's what I used to do. So I used to like spend 2 years traveling around the world, interviewing ministers and CEOs and chairmen of big companies and making big flourishing reports about their countries. So that for 2 years sent me to some countries which you probably won't be able to pronounce because I can't. And when I posted this photo on Facebook, people thought I was James Bond, and really, there's nothing as sexy as that, so no. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I think I didn't really know what at the time, but I kind of was a bit miserable, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I left, and my best friend was like, we should start a business together. And he lived in China at the time, and this is back in 2009. He was like, we should do a tailored suit company online called Mr. Tailor. So I went over to China. Indeed, I saw that it was actually quite an easy thing. We just needed to get measurements, get the suits made, and then we could send them out in like 2 weeks at a cost of £200, which was pretty incredible. The problem was we didn't really know what the hell we were doing. This is 2009, and there is such a thing as bad PR in the sense that this journalist gets in touch with me on LinkedIn, and she goes, I'd love to talk about your work. But at the time, I was working for a business school. And so I was like, oh, sure, I can talk about the business school. She was like, no, about Mr. Tailor. She was a journalist from the Wall Street Journal. And so obviously, with my bullshit sales hat back on, I was going to be like, of course, yes, let me tell you about Mr. Tailor. Told her about how amazing we were, how much sales we had. In fact, I told her that we had so many sales that we didn't have a website because we had to put it down because it was crashed. We didn't have a website. So the Wall Street Journal ran a whole article on Mr. Tailor among a piece on tailoring, and we were the only online tailors out the entire report. This is World, Asia, and Europe, by the way. And we didn't have a website. So I was getting like my mates like, oh my God, we saw you in the Wall Street Journal. Where's the website? And in the article it says, Mark says the website's down because it crashed, because he's got too many demands. So eventually, like all startups, we ran out of cash, and we decided to call it a day, 2 days before his wedding. And so that was at INSEAD where I discovered social entrepreneurship. Now, is anybody familiar with the term social entrepreneurship? Yeah, it's a really cool concept where you apply the business kind of principles, but you adopt the philosophy of doing good that probably more the third sector and charity world has. And so you make money doing good. And I came across this concept and I thought it was amazing. And so I wanted to go off and do something more meaningful. And this is back in 2011. It might not sound as pioneering or as disruptive as today, but back then, no one had a video CV. No one was making video CVs. And so I had this idea of doing a video CV. And all my friends were like, you're ridiculous. This is totally stupid. It's never going to work. My parents were making fun of me while drinking Chardonnay in the garden. And so it was just this big thing around like, this is just not going to work. You know, it's not going to work. But I knew it deep down. And so I managed to convince two friends, emotionally blackmail them to help me do this website and do the video CV. And it went viral. And so the problem with going viral is that I hadn't considered that filming a video CV in your current job probably wasn't a very good idea. So I got the keys of my office over a weekend and we filmed, and I'm behind my desk at my current job asking for a new job. And I'm standing there going, this is probably going to explode in my face, until a colleague jumped in and said, I saw your video, it's amazing. And I looked at her with owl eyes and said, you mean my skateboard videos when I was young? Of course. That was the city videos. She sent me an email afterwards to apologize, and to be fair, I was stupid. So these are a few that I really love. So Innocent Drinks was one of the companies I really want to work with originally. This usually tends to work better in a male-predominant audience, the UFC, do you know, the mixed martial arts community? So this guy is a bit of a legend. He's one of the guys that started the UFC and the mixed martial arts. And he tweeted, awesome, one word that made my entire existence. And so eventually I got a job at Movember, the Movember Foundation. Do you know the getting men to have hideous moustaches? And thank you everyone who supported a brother, a friend, a partner, a husband, a father. And so I did that for 4 years. And for all the shit that I did back in my first job as a corporate sales whore, I made it up by being a 4-year campaign manager for a country manager, for the Movember Foundation, raising 2.8 million euros for men's health and getting 110,000 people to sign up at Movember.com. It was phenomenal. It was incredible. I had so much fun. But as with all things in life, you just have a calling. So this is so funny because the room next door used to be called the Proud Archivist. Now this is the Proud Archivist. But that is me at my book launch. So I did my book launch in 2014 in the venue next to here. This is so surreal. And what I asked people to come as is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that was the theme. I had people flying from Europe all over who came, my friends. And it was just a phenomenal evening where I had people I'd known for years come dressed up as what they wanted to be when they grew up. And yet I had no idea that that's what they wanted to be when they grew up. And I kind of thought, this isn't normal. Why is it that we need to have a fancy dress opportunity to really show the world what we want to do with our lives? And so the book kind of went online. It was really fun. People started tweeting about it, sharing it. It went all the way from Macau to LA to the Pyrenees. Is this one of these laser thingies? No, it's not. Just f***ed it up. Yeah, it has a laser? In the middle? No, where your thumb is. In the middle. Aha! This one here is at the final of the World Cup in Brazil. So this is one of my favorite ones. This is Cuba. Anyway, so the book was going around, and that was really cool. And then, of course, because the entrepreneurial itch was still in me, I wanted to prove that you could start any business in 7 days with £100, and that this whole concept that you need a bunch of tools and websites and business cards, all that stuff is bullshit. And then all you need to do is just get a product, test it, validate it as quickly as you can. And so I launched Heaven Shakes, which was a plant-based protein shake company made of delicious goodness. And in 7 days, I designed this on Photoshop, probably stealing a font, which I wasn't allowed to use, so, you know, please don't sue me. And I decided to go to this festival in the woods. There was like a micro festival happening. And keep in mind that I'm in my kitchen for a week trying to test these recipes while still having a full-time job, carrying around this kilo of protein powder with me as I go to Belgium, true story. I was scared I was going to get arrested for that. And then I get to this festival, and I hadn't really told the organizers that I was going to sell these shakes. So I kind of awkwardly told the organizers, like, look, it's a bit embarrassing. I've carried this huge box of ice chest across all of London, 2.5 hours to get in the woods on public transport on a Friday at rush hour. Everybody hated me. And they're like, this is amazing, take the mic. And so I opened up the event on mic, and everybody was like cheering, like, woo! And so I sold all these shakes, like 42 shakes in 48 hours. I made £9. And that was the most excited I've ever been of making £9 for pure slavery. But it was amazing. And what all this kind of taught me, and I was featured in Virgin Media Pioneers as a result of it. But what this taught me was that, like anything in life, there's two things that matter. One is if you're on a quest. If you're on a quest, suddenly people start helping you out. So I had this crazy idea of making plant-based protein available for all, you know, so we could have, like, you know, save the cows, all that stuff. And people started rallying behind it and loved it. And do you know Alistair Humphreys? Has anybody here heard of Alistair Humphreys? He's like one of the most predominant British explorers. He's like a Bear Grylls, but less kind of a media aggressive. Amazing guy. He came and did the Sunday sermon. And I didn't know who he was. We were having banter. He took my shake. And then on the stage, before he did his talk, he said, before every talk, I always drink a heaven shake. And he drank his heaven shake. And I can't tell you what the sort of floodgates that opened after that event. People wanted to come and volunteer with me at market stalls. I was given a free pass to this food festival. This was insane. I had David written on my badge. Clearly, I'm not called David. And I went to this festival, and everybody was like asking me, oh, David, what do you do? And I was kind of lied because I want to know all the inside information of how people get these products on shelves. So that was great. Yeah, and so after I was featured on Virgin Media, I decided to launch a podcast. And that's because, in a real nutshell, I started as a blogger. Now, I've got a massive confession to make. I'm not a blogger. I'm a vlogger and podcaster, but I started as a blogger. And what I realized was that through the last 5 years, I did some coaching. I was talking to all these people, and then they were like, oh, I really want to start something, but I don't know where to start. I don't know what to take the first step. I don't know what I'm passionate about. I know that I'm supposed to do what I'm passionate about, so I'm passionate to business. You've seen the memes online. And at the same time, I'd interviewed, by the age of 24, 154 people from 25 different countries that had supposedly succeeded and done some great stuff. And I knew that none of them had their shit together, that none of them were, everybody felt like they were wigging it, and that they felt like they had no idea and they were totally over their heads. And so I decided to do a podcast. And if you listen to the very first episode of the podcast, I say, welcome to the yet-to-be-named podcast. I didn't know what to call it. I just knew that I had this thing inside of me that I wanted to create. And so I launched the podcast in my living room in Peckham. And, well, about a year and a half later, I've now had over 50 guests come on the show. I've had over 70,000 downloads. And it's been listened to 102 cities across 29 countries. And that has been predominantly the engine for my business in terms of raising awareness. Now, a few of these characters, I don't know if you know them, if you're in that space, like theminimalist.com, they were my first kind of big hit guests. And then this guy here, absolute legend, is the new podcast that's out today. Make sure to go and check it out on The Unconventionalist. It's JP Sears. You may not recognize his name, but most likely you've seen his video about if meat eaters were vegans or how to become gluten intolerant. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. What I did in preparation for today, and I don't know if it's going to be as helpful as I thought it would be, but I wanted to share with you what I wished I'd known before I started on this journey. Because I wasn't sure if you had already gone down the road of making loads of income, or if you were just getting started. So how much time have I got?
7 minutes.
7 minutes. All right, I'm going to give 3 minutes real quick. This is really counterintuitive to a lot of the information that you get out there, which is what does your audience want? Figure out what they want and write about that. Because if you do that, then you'll get numbers, then you'll get shares, you'll get likes, and then your self-esteem will go up. Well, the truth is, what I've learned, and I've pulled out a few of the quotes and stuff that I had from guests, JP for years, if you look at his first videos, he did really serious videos. It's really weird now because you're used to this funny character, but you see him do these videos about gay marriage and adoption and all this stuff, and you expect him to break into a joke, but he doesn't. And he was quite serious. For years he made up that being funny was totally counterproductive to trying to build a business as an emotional healer, because that's what he does actually. And so we talked about this as we called it the metaphorical coming out. And that's the day that he decided to stop caring about what other people thought about him. And he started putting humor back into his videos. Well, the rest is history. He's got 100 million views on YouTube. He's just got a book that just came out. I think it's 12.5 Steps to Being More Spiritual Than Your Friend, or something like that. He's got a TV deal that's coming on the table. And he's now stopping taking one-to-one clients because A, he hasn't got the time, and B, it's just not worth the money, I'm guessing. So the first tip is be counterintuitive, and what do you want to talk about? What do you want to write about? Because here's the thing. It's not going to happen quickly, and you're mostly going to have to do it for a long time before you get any traction. So if you pick something purely based on a niche, because it sounds like it's a great idea and there's great income, I personally would say forget it. Because the one thing I always say to all my clients is, would you do it even if no one paid attention? Even if no one read what you wrote, even if no one heard what you spoke, would you still do it? If the answer is yes, then you're onto something. Don't be beige. Now, this is something that I think this is probably because our lives have been so unfurled online that we're really afraid of the consequences of actually having an opinion. And then people like Donald Trump show up and they have an opinion and then suddenly they get president. So That's not a good example of what you should be doing. But I will say this. If you want to stand out for all the right reasons, be bold, be brave, have an opinion, take a stance on something that you really believe in. And I know this may sound a little woohoo, but it's true. So many people that I come across, I read their stuff, and it's just cookie cutter stuff. It's like they've read the 3 steps to how to make a blog for clients and make income. They followed all the steps, and great. But there's no real kind of oomph behind it. And I want you to piss off people, because you're not going to attract everyone. If you try and be for everyone, you're going to be in the middle, and that's never a good place to be online. And this is The Minimalist. There was a quote that I pulled out, which was, you've got to swim against the current sometimes to get to where you want to be. Now, this is a really tough one. I'm going to guess, especially for this crowd, making a massive assumption, stop consuming. There's something that I've noticed. When I'm not doing very well, when I'm feeling a bit shit about myself, I go into massive consumption mode. I read every blog post I can. I consume every podcast I can. I look at Gary Vaynerchuk on loop on my iPhone. I look at everything that I can, but I'm not creating. And the best person that put it in concept was a guest of mine, Daniel Priestley, and he said the act of consumption actually weighs you down, but the act of creating puts you in an energetic state. And this is really weird, because it can actually feel like, I need to know more, because surely I need to go to another event, I need to buy another book, I need to buy another program, I need to be on another course before I'm ready. That is just procrastination and hiding. That's just the truth of it. Ask for help. It's a really lonely journey. 76% of all businesses in the UK are run by solo entrepreneurs. So if your blog ever turns out to be a business generating income, I'm going to crash something, just know that it's a really lonely journey. And we were just talking about it with Ben and Steph around this, that, community means a lot. Don't be a lone wolf. Entrepreneurship is a full contact sport. I put TBC because he doesn't know it yet. He'll be on the show. He just doesn't know when yet. So it's just a question of the future. But it's true, though. This is a really difficult gig. So if you're in a job and you make up this illusion that when you quit your job and you become a full-time blogger, that life will be amazing, magical, and unicorns will show up on your door, it's not going to happen. And the best way you can do that is surround yourself with people who love you, who care about you, and get your journey. Okay, I'm almost finished. Put your oxygen mask on first. This is weird, right, for like a business tip and strategy on how to start a blog. I'm not giving you the 6 steps to success or the 3 formula that you need to do to get mailing marketing on. I think you can get on that online, personally. I think you can find a gazillion resources, but not a lot of people are talking about this stuff. And this is I love this episode. He's not particularly a famous guest, but he talks about how we need to love ourselves unconditionally every day like nothing else mattered. Every day. You're going to have to find a reason to stay on track. You're going to get so many blockers along the way. You're going to get people who say they hate what you read. You're going to get clients who fall out the roof. You're going to struggle for months. It's like a desert. Am I selling you blogging already? It's like how to become a blogger. But it's the reality. And the reason why I say that is not because I want you to turn you away from it. I just want you to be ready so that when it happens, you go, I'm not alone. This happens to everybody else. And I remember that bearded guy with the big framed glasses at an event that said that this would happen. And one of the things that you can do with that, if you struggle with that, with a sense of self-worth and all that stuff, meditation for me is a really good tool, and journaling, especially if you're looking for ideas on what to blog about. And I'll give you a little secret about that in a second. Get started. Who here hasn't started yet? Like launched a blog, they're thinking about it, but they haven't started yet? Okay, cool. Can someone just tell me really quickly what's one of the biggest reasons why you haven't started?
Not knowing. I feel like I need to have something I'm really, really passionate about. I mean, quite a lot of things I'm quite passionate about. I don't have like one thing that's in my face.
Yeah. So you're a victim of the Holy Grail. Yeah, it's basically like, I'm looking for this one thing. There's got to be everything. It's got like the one partner that's going to fulfill everything. My emotional, spiritual, sexual, physical, everything. Relationships. No wonder that's a bit of pressure, isn't it? I love the quote from Lauren, which is basically, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be genuine. Don't worry if it's not perfect. Don't worry if you haven't got it all figured out, if you haven't got the web domain correct, if you haven't got the right template on WordPress or Squarespace or whatever. Start as quickly as you can. Be patient. This is the classic one. I think we're all victim of seeing like online success on Instagram, of chasing likes and shares and so forth, and therefore we feel inadequate and we feel like we need to be a success now. Everyone that I've ever met on my interviews have taken years to get where they are. In fact, this is good news and bad news. People who do online businesses, whether that's blogging or vlogging or coaching or podcasting, on average, I'd say it's between 2 to 3 years before they start breaking even and before they start making a bit of money. 2 to 3 years. So just keep that in mind before you start judging yourself because you're not making 6 figures in 6 days according to the course you just bought. In short, I live by this quote, at least I try to live by this quote, even though I find it really hard because I always compare myself to others and seek approval. Do what makes you come alive. Really focus on that. I can't emphasize that enough. Because if you do that, then it doesn't matter how long or how hard it's going to be because you'll enjoy every step of it. Wow, I don't know what happened with this font there.
You are a gift.
Sure, yeah, share your gift. Yeah, this is an accelerator that I have. You can find out about the website on theunconventionalist.com. That's what I was doing. Yeah, these are some helpful resources if you want to find out a bit more about how to tell your story. This is a great obviously, the Unconventionalist podcast is your go-to resource for everything in life. But if you want to find out a bit more, there's a great podcast called Story Brand with Donald Miller. Try this is a good book. And then, yeah, because I'm not going to be able to stay till the end, so I can't do the Q&A at the end, which I was telling you guys. But I'll tell you this. I'll give you one tip, if anything, apart from the emotional stuff that you're going to walk away going, that guy did not give us a single concrete tip. If you're looking for ideas, how to find blog post ideas, right? So anybody has struggles with coming up with blog post ideas or stuff like that? So there's a girl I interviewed called Karina Gordon-Barnes. She is by far the best blogger I've ever come across. I cannot not click on one of her blog posts when she posts it, even if it's about women's menstruation. I just have to click on it because I'm compelled to. And so what I've asked her when I interviewed her, I said, how do you come up with these amazing, compelling titles? And she said, well, it's really simple. I listen. I said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, I look at the emails that come in my inbox. I look at the comments I get on my posts. And I look at the community that I'm part of to see what questions they post on different forums. And then I turn those into questions that I answer in my blog. And it's as simple as that. So if you get an email by someone saying, hey, how do I find my one passion? And then I could write a blog post, why trying to find your passion is bullshit. And how do I know that? Just because you just told me that. I didn't invent it. Cool, that's what I've got. Yeah.